Good morning.
Good morning.
And an early happy All Hallows Eve and All Souls Day. This is our service early for those holidays that we mark our seasons and our years, our days. And so our particular theology has a lot to give us about All Hallows Eve and All Souls Day and how we are not alone. Have you ever been in a room by yourself and felt that you weren't alone? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been doing something and all of a sudden you feel like something has swooped up and made company with you? Me too. And too many to mention, and I'm sure you have your interesting true stories as well. The other day I was walking Gertie. Who here has a pet that they walk? Okay, yeah. I was walking Gertie along Woodlawn, and all of a sudden I got the feeling that someone, not of this world, just swooped up and started walking with us. And guess what Gertie did? Whoop! She just made like a whoop sound, like a dog would whoop. And I said, you feel it too, girl, don't you? And it was a good force. It was a good spirit. It was a beautiful moment. And it was a reminder once again that, folks, we are not alone. We live in a temporal world. We live in time and space. And yet, as one of my professors in seminary used to say, how much of what we think and feel is really our own? Not much. Emanuel Swedenborg wrote, he invites us to consider that most of the affections, feelings, most of the thoughts that fly through your head in any given moment, guess what? Swedenborg invites us to consider that that's either an angel that's swooping that thought into you, like a river flowing through your mind, or it's a demon that's saying you're no good, that's saying you'll never be good enough. It's saying work is too hard, you better quit now. It's saying you're not pretty enough. It's saying try harder. And you feel this horrible feeling about yourself. Or maybe a thought goes through your head from a demon that says the person next to you isn't good enough. It's not all fantasy. I'm here to tell you what Swedenborg has invited us to consider, which is that every beautiful, lovely, heavenly thought is ultimately God. It is the Lord. And every dark force that would have you think horribly of yourself or someone else, that doesn't forgive, the part of you that refuses to give someone a break in your own mind, that is compulsive. Anybody here compulsive about something?
Oh,
Yeah? Emanuel Swedenborg would say that any time we feel compulsive about something, that is not of God. That is not of God.
I'm in trouble.
But there's always healing and forgiveness. Don't feel bad. It is a signal to stop and pray. It's a signal that you're out of balance. It's good. Swedenborg said the whole purpose of having angels and demons moving through our thoughts and affections, the whole purpose is not a skit.
Wow.
Oh, hello.
Sorry,
That's all right.
unknown.
Hello, God.
Just close it.
That's all right. We've all done it, haven't we?
yeah.
Now, who here had a negative thought? No. So, there comes an angel.
No, it's
There it is.
It's okay.
She's want to get out of his phone.
And so,
Sorry.
Swedenborg would invite us to consider that every thought that moves through us and every feeling and affection has its source in one realm or the other. And that really the only thing that is us, what do you think that is? What is the only thing that is truly ours? Now I'm asking you to put on your philosopher hat.
Our freedom to choose.
Correct. So that, folks, the truth is that everything good and beautiful that flows through you is God. It's not us. And everything dark and disparaging and overwhelmed and negative and we beat up ourselves and other people in our own minds. That's not us either. That's the good news. That is not us. What is us is what we choose to focus on once we have that experience. Isn't that a wonderful theology? So that you are not terrible and you are not hopeless. And all the things that are yucky that go through you are not really from the source of your own bad self. There is a negative swirling energy that we call in Christianity, we call that evil. But there is a force that flows through us that causes us to be despairing and hurtful and negative. And we have the precious opportunity, it is a treasure to know, and this is such a gift to be reminded of this theology. It's a treasure to know that you are not goodness itself. The world does not revolve around you, it revolves around God. And everything good and true and lovely is God in you. And everything that would be destructive and hurtful and negative, anything that would be compulsive and make you dysfunctional in your beautiful life is not you either. But what you are is once you identify your state of being, you are the decision on what you dwell in. You're not guilty. You are not guilty of having negative thoughts and feelings. But where your sin remains is if you indulge in something that is destructive for too long. It's okay to have destructive tendencies, thoughts, and feelings. Just let yourself go the other way. Go toward the light like a moth to flame. And do it as if your life depended on it. Because every moment is 1,000 years to God. So find the light. Find the light. I've been studying and our adult discussion group beginning in November, because we don't meet next Sunday after the extravaganza. But the next Sunday we meet is November 4th. And that will start at 10 a.m., our adult discussion group. And I've ordered from Amazon 5 copies of C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters with a Christian Bible study with it. So we have a Christian Bible study with the Screw Tape Letters. And it should be a very rich resource from which we can explore what C.S. Lewis has written down. And briefly, because of the time, I want to share a few gems, a few treasures and tidbits. But we will explore more in November on the 4th. We'll start reading that. But C.S. Lewis was a writer. He was born in 1898. How many years ago was that?
Long time.
Long time. Long time. I'm missing Eleanor right now. Long time.
My father was 1 year old.
What?
My father was 1 year old.
Oh my gosh. World War I was happening. Or it was going to happen, I think.
Yeah.
And so C.S. Lewis, he was a person in his young life. His mother died when he was very, very young. And he had the influence of friends. Anybody here have friends who are negative?
No.
Oh, yeah. 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 So C.S. Lewis had friends who were very negative. And so he, in his young life, C.S. Lewis grew up an agnostic and then became an atheist. Does anybody know what an atheist means?
No God.
No God. which is a very empty place to live in. It doesn't mean they're not good people. It's just a very empty place where there's a disconnect with the Creator. Anyway, so C.S. Lewis was an atheist for the good half of his life. He went into World War I to serve in that military, and he was wounded. And in World War I, his woundedness, along with a promise that he gave a comrade, when his comrade was dying, he promised his friend in wartime that he would go home and take care of his friend's mother till she died. And that is not a small task, but it was a very human, loving thing to do. And it was the combination of his wartime wounds, living out his promise to his friend, as well as falling in love with a woman who he thought was his soulmate, but then he lost her. She died. So guess what happened to him through all of this? He found God. And so this piece of fiction, the Screwtape Letters, is really a very deep, it's not about him. It's a fiction. But it's about how, now are you ready for this? This is a really big piece of the whole point of today's message. It's about how Screwtape, it's called the Screwtape Letters, it's about how a senior devil teaches a junior devil how to win human beings on earth into hell. Yoo! What is that? But it's filled with rich tidbits of how that which is the selfish dark force in us, the part of us that's negative, and we put each other down, and we give up on each other, and we give up on ourselves, and all those dynamics of what it means to be human and to struggle and to be depressed and lonely. All those dynamics, C.S. Lewis shows us, is really the other side, the dark side, trying to drag down as it comes through us. And if we stick in that negative place, it tends to drag and drain the soul. He talks about not so much focusing on genocidal maniacs like Hitler and Stalin, which in his years he also was living through World War II, and that's the backdrop of the book. But he says it's really easy to say, oh yeah, Hitler and Stalin were evil. But he says, don't do that. He says, don't focus your condemnation and focus of evil on the larger, global, obvious things. Screwtape, as the senior devil, is teaching the junior devil how to get into the subtleties of our thinking and feeling and winning us that way into a hellish state. Such as, it's okay. Now, who here, me, and any human being, who here has ever told a little white lie, and then you justify it, and then in order to back that up, you have to lie a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Keep track of them.
And and then you have to spend all this energy keeping track of all your little white lies. So Screwtape teaches Wormwood, the junior devil. He says, make the human, he calls us patients. Isn't that gross? Make the human patients believe that it's okay to just keep telling little white lies. And in the end, it all adds up to a soul that has been clouded and cannot discern what is true and what is not true. So it's a subtle, gradual decline that is the goal in this book of the dark side. Also, apathy to God. What does apathy mean?
I don't care.
Don't care.
Just that I don't care.
I don't care one bit about God. And not that church is all saving in our faith. We believe church helps because we support each other, we pray for each other through the seasons of life. But an apathy toward being involved with others and caring. An apathy toward our church. An apathy toward other human beings who need us. I find it extremely significant that on my way to church today, there was a homeless woman pushing a grocery cart in the middle of the road, and I couldn't get past her. And I said, Renee, what are you going to preach on? And so I stopped, and I helped her get to the side of the street so that she wouldn't be honked at or brushed away by any other human being that we could do. How many times have we done that? And here was an opportunity. Here's this old woman with dirty clothes. Her hair was yucky. She had all of her life in this cart. And she was probably mentally ill from how she looked. But I said, Renee, how do you respond in this moment? This is the message today. What do you do? Where's the compassion? How do you respond? And so C.S. Lewis is saying apathy toward others is a signal that God is not in your focus at that moment. Apathy, you don't care. Another one is to just to have a very laissez-faire or too relaxed, slippery attitude toward your discipline of prayer. How many times have I, and I'll own this, how many times have I gone days and said, have you checked in with the Lord yet? It's been days sometimes. I'll just keep working. I'll pray for others. So C.S. Lewis is teaching us through how these devils are teaching each other about us, how to win us over. C.S. Lewis is saying, get into the little thoughts that drag them down over and over again. And also the message in the story is the power. You ready for this? And this ascends doctrine. What do I mean by that? That this truth that C.S. Lewis gives us as we strive to overcome evil, this is true for any religion. The power of the simply good person who is kind. When we're kind, evil has no power. That's the truth. No matter what doctrine you espouse, whatever follows you that helps you, it is the kind action. It is the charity in heart and action that dispels all darkness. That is the light. Whether you're Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, whether you're Zen, Tao, whether you're open to all things. It is the power of the kindness of others that heals us and saves us from plummeting down into spirals that we've heard about in our own community. And so remember that as we go forward from this time, that C.S. Lewis lived the ideas and the theology of his book that we're going to be exploring. But what's most important is your life. Let every thought that disturbs you, be an opportunity to look for the light. And I guarantee it will change you. And if we do that over and over again, the darkness has no power for us. We will notice it, it will fly through because we're in freedom. And we'll say, oh, there you are. No, thank you. And then give all praise and thanksgiving to God.